Good morning. Good morning. Happy June 22nd. And took me a minute. There's some glitches in YouTube. There's some technical stuff going on. How are you feeling? Well, okay. Since Father's Day, so we did this last Sunday on the 15th. It feels like it's been a year since then, but it's actually just been 7 days, right? We've had some layered and super intense energy, as you probably know, right? We've had a couple of huge solar flares. We hit that seasonal threshold with the summer solstice. Some emotional ups and downs that are hard to track, hard to really follow. And it's been like this subtle, strange, sort of sacred energy that's going on. And I'm looking a little tousled. Just on a personal note, here in Montana, it was 41 degrees this morning after raining for the last 2.5 days and still raining today. So if you came to Montana to go up into the park to go play, to have some fun outside, you're going to be in some rain and it's pretty dang cold out there. That's what I would say. So, um, uh, that just catching you up on what's going on here in Montana. Let's walk through the timeline. And what I want to do is go through some of the solar flares. I want to go through the solstice, some of the fascinating people I've been reading about, and take you on a journey. So here we go. Okay, last Sunday I talked about Alexander Quinn said that on the 2nd through the 6th of June, there was this huge energy surge. And last Sunday I said, and there's another one coming, and it started Friday and was going to really kick in Saturday, Sunday, or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So maybe starting around Thursday or Friday, the 12th or the 13th this week. Um, or last week, what we saw was this second massive energy wave coming through that lasted 48 hours, 72 hours, and it hit deep and it went into our nervous system and into our subconscious, right? Okay, so that's going. And then on June 17th, at about 3:50 Mountain Standard Time, we had this X class flare. It was an X13, came out of nowhere. And what was really interesting, it had been going B class, and then it sort of started hanging out. And I have a picture. Don't know if I'm going to be able to find it really fast, but I think I should be able to. That just sort of surprised me, in the sense of what it did. It hung out at this, if you can see it, at this sea level, right? Just straight line across. And in 4 minutes, jumped up to an X1 just like that, and then went down and hit a couple M's and then disappeared. And we were like, what just happened? That kind of came out of nowhere. And so it was this sudden charge of emotional electromagnetic energy, right? And it sort of jolted us awake out of this fog that had been happening. And we were like, what was that? And so that's the first thing that happened. The second one is 2 days later on June 19th, at about 6:50 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We had a bigger flare, an X1.96. And it came like a lightning strike, sort of cracked open our heart, our gut, um, in our solar plexus. That's what I would say. And so, we've been sort of used to tracking on our computers, on our phones, when the solar flares are coming. And there wasn't a lot of warning on these, first of all. And second of all, we've also been equating these big surges with what's going on. I'm going to flip that upside down and say lately, what's been happening is we've been having these huge quiet surges of energy, and then when this solar flare comes in out of nowhere, we're like, what was that? Kind of like too loud, too much information coming in, right? So let's just keep going on the timeline, which is, if the second solar flare happened on the 17th, on the 19th, we had the summer solstice, right? We had our beautiful solstice, and it was so much fun. And because in the northern hemisphere, it's when it's the longest day of the year, which was raining here. So couldn't even really see it. In fact, it was really dark really early because it was so cloudy and rainy. But it also means that we have this physical light body, and that energetically, there's this huge illumination and shadow sort of going on. So, what I would say is that if we were to sort of look at it, we've been getting the subtle energy, right? I love the reflection on these cards. They're so shiny. And we've also been dancing very beautifully with this energy, almost sort of stepping into some consciousness and some wisdom that we haven't really wanted to embrace or known how to so far, right? Almost like this one too. It's like I'm going to sit there and I'm going to feel into this and just allow this to happen. Okay. So our inner climate, um, there are three people that like the solar flare stuff I get from Pam Young, and she's awesome at telling us when it happened, what the strength was, and what to do with that. I just go to her, and I also go to my spaceweather.com to sort of get those measurements. When I want to know what's really happening energetically, two people came across my screen about 3 months ago, Alexander Quinn and Zachary Fisher. And I'm blown away with the information that both of them are saying. So, what I'm going to do is translate and sort of blend these messages. So, Alexander Quinn, basically, he's reading the field and he's saying something is dissolving, that we're feeling foggy yet precise, right? Emotional yet clear. So there's this level of clarity that we haven't had and this precision, but there's also this sort of like we're moving in cotton balls and it's unclear. So it's almost like, it's foggy, but there's this clarity that's coming from our pineal gland that's guiding us through this, right? It's structured yet unformed. That's how I would put it. And I'm looking, oh, here we go. Like we have a structure, but it's still coming into form. Right. So we're confronting some of the things that would be like our collective fantasies, like whatever party I picked is going to save the world, or whatever party I didn't pick that's losing has every right to be upset. So there's this fantasy going on of right and wrong and good and bad. There's these egoic clashes, which is I'm right, you're wrong, or look what they're doing, and I have every right to. And we're just going like, wow, there's a lot of swirling of opinions and emotions right now. And the tension, there's this tension between like our aspiration, this is what I want to go do, and this full on fatigue and exhaustion. Like, yeah, I want to do that. Like, I'm looking for a new car. And so yesterday in the rain, I decided to go check out the dealerships in town and see what they had, see if I wanted to test drive. And I got there and I was like, I don't really want to do this right now. And I've been so excited to look for a new car that it was hilarious. Like I didn't even want to be bothered with looking at a car until this energy changes. It was quite informative for me because that's where all of my hopes and aspirations hit this fatigue wall. Okay. So next thing is that we have these collective patterns surfacing. So we're feeling uncomfortable, we're feeling resistant, and I'm trying to think of, here we go, some of this might be coming up, which is like there's all this emotional information and I'm not sure what to do with it. I'm uncomfortable and I have to find some way to shut it down, right? Or I'm having these reactions constantly on a mental plane. So, emotion and mental, this is where we're really hanging out here on what I'm hearing, what I'm thinking, and they're just pushing all of my buttons. And so I'm just not knowing what to do. So we're uncomfortable. We're in resistance and we're in escapism. So it could be alcohol, it could be weed, it could be like I've noticed that for the first time in weeks or months, I sat and went through YouTube shorts for like an hour, or Instagram reels, just going, oh well that was good, oh well that was good. And so there's this over scrolling, there's sort of looking for external validation, information, something that says this is what's going on, and looking for it and not finding it anywhere and feeling like, God, there's just no one's talking right now about what's going on. And I'm frustrated, right? Instead of like going, oh, I don't know if I'm going to find out what's going on because I'm not sure anyone's really saying it out loud, except for a couple of people that I'm reading and this collective groups on my Patreon, on Pam Young Insight. There's these followers on Madrona where we're just going like, yeah, this is happening. And we're distracting ourselves because we're being asked to feel. We're being asked to sort of allow all of these feelings to come into us, but the answers aren't going to come from the outside. That's what we want to know, or that's what we want to be able to hold on to. These answers are not going to come from the outside. This is where we're in that phase of holding our internal space and allowing the unraveling to happen outside. So, it's almost like this is who I am. I'm going through this, and it doesn't matter what's going on outside. I'm unraveling my own story, my own purpose, my own sense of being. Make sense? So let's move to Zachary Fisher because I don't know. I This is a new human that came across my screen, and I just love everything that he's posting and saying because it's like a language that I understand, and then I can translate some of that over to you. So what he's saying is that over the last 2 to 5 days, the energy has been quiet but intense. And instead of fireworks, it's like a deep underground earthquake. Like, whoa, did you feel that? And you're not seeing it, and there aren't all of these news flashes going on. It's just very subtle. And our old patterns are resurfacing. Some of our hidden pain is emerging, the voices, the stories. We're fragmented, we're disassociated, we're exhausted, and we're feeling overwhelmed and detached because there's more depth coming up from inside of us. And that over these last 2 to 5 days, this has been happening, and there's this reset. And some of the physical sensations that Fisher was talking about is like pressure in your chest. I woke up with this I thought 3 of my ribs must be out in the middle of my chest from sleeping last night because I didn't move all night long, and I thought, "Oh, this is gonna take some time for this chest, these muscles, these bones to sort of recalibrate." There are waves of grief, and there is surprisingly enormous levels of peace, like just peace. I'm just here experiencing all of this. I'm trying to figure out how to get it where it's not so shiny. There you go. Um, there's nausea. Don't feel like eating much. I found that I'm eating as cold as it is outside. I can't get enough cucumbers and sort of fresh I would even say Greek cucumbers, tzatziki, these things that just feel like they're so clean. And there's this rawness in my heart and in the solar plexus, like heart, solar plexus. You can put your hand across your belly button and a hand on your chest and go, yeah, this is where we are. Because we're so used to loud, and this is soft, and it's strange, and it's unfamiliar. It's not hard information that we're taking in, and it's not banging us or slapping us across the side of the head. It's coming in and it's changing us from the inside out. So we're unraveling, and it's not dramatic, it's elegant, and it's subtle, and it's so sacred. It is just so sacred. So we're learning that the shouting isn't getting our attention. We have to sort of lean in a little bit more, and there's these whispers, these beautiful whispers. Okay. So that's what's been going on. So I have 6 tips for you on what we can do about this. And before I do that, there's a Patreon. I have a Patreon group. We do a discussion every Tuesday. We're going to talk about Zachary Fisher's latest information on some planet stuff and play with it. And it's starting to build. So if you want to join on that discussion, come join us on Tuesday. The link is below. It's first paragraph in the description below what I'm going to talk about in this video. You can link over to the Patreon from there. Okay. Let's see. First, tip number 1. Hydrate, and hydrate with intention. Now, we talk about this all the time. What I'm going to say is that you're going to add sea salt or real salt. You can even get as much salt as you can into your body and some trace minerals. Get some chlorophyll, get some warm water with lemon. Eat cucumber, watermelon, cooked greens, like things that are water rich and help our body process. Because what we want to do is we want to support our liver and our kidneys. And it's also going to help our skin clear. I don't know if you've noticed that part of this intense energy is that there's this flaky, dry skin, sunspots coming up. And sometimes I think that's age. And other times I just realize, oh, my liver really needs me to pay more attention to it. So that's the first thing, is hydrate with intention. The second thing, and we've talked about this often, is this idea of grounding. Absolutely grounding. Touch the earth in your bare feet. Get your spine on the ground. Hug a tree. Do things that actually get you connected to the earth and connected to your body. Right? Breathe into your hips and into your thighs. Get that torso connected from the upper part through the waist, down through the hips, into the thighs, into the legs, and anchor in your root chakra and your sacral chakra. These chakras have to be connected to the ground and then connect to our upper body. We're so used to navigating from up here all the time that we want to do is we want to force the movement down. Number 3, sit in nature and listen. Now, that means take your earbuds off. That means get your phone and stop texting, right? You're not outside sort of basically not paying attention and using your devices, catching up on a podcast or talking to a friend. What we need you to do is sit in nature and be quiet, because quiet is talking to us. Listen to your nervous system, not just with your ears, but listen to what's responding, right? And the next step will arise out of that stillness. Now, I remember when I lived in Bend, I had a lot of things on my plate and I wasn't sure what to do with it. And I chose to get up at 6 in the morning and walk, rain or shine. And I walked for 10 months, and I walked for an hour, which ended up being 3.5 miles. No devices, which we didn't have at that time. And no company to keep, to distract with. How are you doing conversation, right? And I just walked, and it was hard the first week. Second week, things started to fall in place. And it got to the point where after 10 months, I knew who I was, I knew what I wanted, and I knew what I needed to do. So get outside and listen. Okay. Number 4, release the urge to fix. We're not trying to get clarity so that we can progress. We're not trying to get clarity so that we can go back into production, right? What we want is we want clarity so that things fall into place. This isn't the time to act. It's the time to receive. There's information that's going to come in and sort of go, oh, now I know a little bit more about who I am and what my path is than I did before. Because the next right step for you is going to come out of that stillness. It's going to come out of what really matters. Okay. Number 5, pay attention to who enters your field right now. Pay attention, because what we're doing is we're matching in energetics. And I'm trying to think of, when we're in this state, then we're going to attract people who are in this state with us. And it's going to be in very subtle ways. So who contacts you? Who crosses your path? What synchronicities come in? And pay attention to who sees you when you're like this. So I have this beautiful story where my daughter had gone through she's just had a bad 6 months or a year. And she came up and she stayed with me when I was living out on Bainbridge, and we just sat next to the ocean and we journaled and we played with cards and we went out for tea and coffee and just sort of just nurtured ourselves, right? And it was the most beautiful thing to watch this woman, this powerful woman, recalibrate into herself. And she was just clear-eyed by 3 days and like, wow, that was exactly what I needed. And I remember saying to her, pay attention to who sees you when you're like this. Pay attention to who steps forward. And it was such a beautiful story that she met her now husband on the plane. And it was kind of like eye contact, and was like, oh, I know you from Montana, but I've never really talked to you. And it was like, boom, this big, beautiful thing happened. So just know that when you're absolutely yourself, right? When you're in full presence of who you are, the right, the good, the necessary calibrated people are going to step in and they're going to see you and you're going to go, well, there's my tribe, there's my person, there's my friend, there's the things that I really need in my life, right? And number 6, have compassion, because we're really topsy-turvy right now. We're figuring it out on our own way, right? It is not making sense, and every single person is on a different journey. And some are still gripped, in this. And some are like, wow, what are you talking about? And so this is where we are. And some of us are in harmony where we're just like everything's falling into place because I'm paying attention to who I am and what really matters, right? So let this be a week of softness and presence and allowing the unknown to sort of shape you without demanding answers and without needing it to get loud to get your attention. This is where we develop the subtlety. And if I can help in any way, please drop me a message and let me know. And if not, I will see you next Sunday. And be kind to yourself and to others. Take care. Bye bye.